Hi there, Ashley Reeve here. Welcome to our economic calendar update for this week. Can you believe it? We are in the last week of October, the beginning of November 2022. Before we get started, please note BigTrade is a licensed financial service provider as well as a licensed over-the-counter derivatives provider. And as always mentioning, I'm a registered rep working under supervision. Authorizes me to offer a couple of recommendations, but remember that risk and reward and the execution of that remains your responsibility. So as mentioned, we are approaching the end of the year. We are into the last quarter of 2022, and what a fantastic year it's been. Just to bear with me a little bit here with today's information and specific update on what is to be expected this week. It's been packed. We've seen a number of interest rate decisions happen throughout the year. Inflation has surged, and it's not really, or it hasn't and will not be a different message from what I shared last week. But we just want to dive into a little bit more or a few more specifics regarding what we've been sharing for the past couple of months. And so then if we look at this week, focus will be on the Federal Reserve meeting on Tuesday and Wednesday, as well as the U.S. jobs data on Friday. That's the NFP non-farm payroll. Just a couple of seconds, down below, you'll see that it is a very important result that we are looking for. Also note that Asia, there'll also be attention in China for economic activity data, as well as the Reserve Bank for Australia in Tuesday's meeting. The Fed is all but certain to rise rates by 75 basis points. Seems like we're going to follow Euro, maybe to have 50 basis points later on. Because remember, as I mentioned to you before, they do work simultaneously, or you'll see the one piggyback off each other. But it seems certain at this point in time, it's 75 basis points. It's 0.75%, and that's on Wednesday. So have a look. Remember, that does have an impact on the strength of a currency when interest rates are hiked. And we saw the dollar did retreat, and it's been struggling now for the past 2 days. We are on the third day. When we want to see if there's going to be any change in the strength of the dollar when these interest rates do come out. Stocks on Wall Street rallied on Friday. We had a very big surge there with the S&P, NASDAQ, and the US 30 or the Dow Jones. And obviously, that's a mid-mounting speculation about the Federal Reserve and for them to actually slow down this pace of raising these interest rates. As I mentioned, it might be 0.75% now, and maybe later on in December, only 0.5%. All these three major indexes, as I mentioned, there was a big surge in them there. The Dow Jones Industrial Average jumping 5.7%. Meanwhile, the benchmark S&P rose 3.9%, and the NASDAQ there with 2.2% higher. This coming week is expected to be another volatile one, as I mentioned, and keep mentioning the Federal Reserve set to deliver its fourth straight 75 basis point rate hike at the conclusion of its policy meeting on Wednesday. The Fed chair there, Jerome Powell, will be making some comments about the direction and the course to take. And then while on some other economists, there's that 50 basis points that I've mentioned that could come mid-December. And this could cause then these indices there to actually move up once more. But it's the market, anything can happen. So please, let's not get too carried away. And then obviously, guys, as I mentioned, the NFP or the non-farm payroll report figures will be given on Friday. That's the first Friday of every new month. Which is very important, or what is very important about this is that this is the report for October, which is the forecast to show solid job gains, but a slowing from September's solid growth. It will be one of the last major economic reports before the U.S. midterm election on November the 8th. And then also, in addition, the week ahead is also the busiest of the third quarter corporate earnings season, with nearly 150 companies of the S&P 500 actually releasing results. Notable companies in this regard, you'll see there, AMD, ROKU. We also have Coinbase, PayPal, Uber, Airbnb. We have Starbucks, Pfizer, that's in pharmaceuticals. Eli Lilly also pharmaceuticals, and Moderna. What's also very important about our forecast, some of the CFDs that we are tracking, we're still tracking that Brent. It was consolidating last week. We had a bit of a high, but it has come back down again. And obviously, if you're tracking Brent, you're tracking WTI, and they have similar movements. Gold also very interesting movement there with the dollar weakness. We saw it spike up on Wednesday last week, and then it has now come back down again into consolidation. So let's have a look and see how that pans out. Also join us in the trading room for more detail on those commodities. Watch your NASDAQ. As I mentioned, there was some movement up on the indices, but it did hit a resistance. So please be careful if you're trying to long it again, because if you get a stronger dollar, the opposite might happen here. And if you win a long, you can catch yourself in a bit of a chokehold, which you don't want. And then lastly here, we're still looking at that NZD USD. It's pushed above that 5.8041 area very nicely. It's consolidating at the moment, retreating a little bit to the downside, but not, to the extent where you need to panic if you did go in for the long. Please note that there is a stop loss or an ideal emergency exit put in place at 0.57088. If it does get rowdy, if the dollar does show opposite signs of being strong instead of weak, please note that 0.57088 will be the area for you to watch to exit that trade so that you don't incur further losses. This is Ashley Reeve here. I'll be back possibly later on in the week to discuss if there's anything that has come up, if there's any volatile movements that we need to, report or to actually mention. I'll come up and I will mention it in a video. But for now, everything seems to be okay. It's Monday. Things are a little bit slower. Let's give it some time and see how Monday closes, and we pick it up again tomorrow. This is Ashley Reeve signing out.